Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. If you have a business and you are like, I don't know, I'm struggling, or I'm not really sure how to build it because you have some unresolved things going on in your mind that you might not even realize, then today is the episode for you. So I have Denise G in the room, and my name is Charisse Walker, your host. And Denise, without further ado, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Charisse, for having me. Thank you, everyone who is taking time out of their busy schedule to listen to this conversation we're about to have. My hope, my joy is to be able to take psychological and science-driven insights for real-life practical advice for you as a woman, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a mother who is bombarded with societal pressures, past life experiences, and just trying to navigate societal challenges that tell us what we should be. Should we be like the poster version that we see on Instagram Reels? Are we trying to mimic what we see on TikTok? What are we doing in our church? Are we measuring up? And I'm here to say there's a simpler, better way to live and operate not just our business, but our lives.
I love that because just a couple of weeks ago, I sat down and I decided to put on paper everything that I feel like I'm trying to do professionally. I did not include the personal. And about 12 different things came up on the list. And if you take anybody's advice when it comes to business, most people that are successful say choose one and kill the rest of your babies until you grow that one and you move on to the next one. And then you move on. But as entrepreneurs, we tend to be like squirrel. We can do this, or we can do this, or we can do this. And so we have a lot of different irons in the fire. But you said something before we started, before we pressed record, that I really loved. And so do you want to repeat that?
I remember when we were talking, I was mentioning that you were announcing I did 150 episodes, and boy, I feel tired. And I heard your voice crackling, and you were real, you were vulnerable. And I think that's awesome because I think a lot of people think that as business owners, we should just have this tough Teflon exterior and just go through the motions. But when we are able to share the things that we're going through, and not just for a storytelling marketing thing, but we're just saying it to like have people realize that we're human and we're relatable and that we can connect. That shows a level of insight into who you are with your own emotional intelligence that a lot of entrepreneurs aren't doing because they feel like they have to be perfect in order to perform. And that's a lie. But the point I'm trying to make that I think we were saying was that a lot of people think that we need to have that one goal and just focus on that. And I'm like, why don't you focus on your identity of who you were as a woman, as an entrepreneur, and how you present yourself that brings yourself confidence and a sense of purpose. And the vehicle doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people get tripped up thinking, I need to focus on, well, I'm just going to do my podcasting and kill everything else. Well, what if you're just focused on podcasting, but you haven't dealt with the fact that your father sexually abused you when you were a kid? Don't think that's not showing up on when you're trying to be vulnerable with other people.
And I only laugh because that is my amen to you, because it is so true. And that's why I wrote the book Flipping the Iceberg, because it wasn't even like growing up, I had this Cinderella mentality that we were supposed to live happily ever after and we would never fight and blah, 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 blah. And then the 2 days we're driving across country to go back to school and we're fighting. I'm like, oh, we have a great marriage. This is so good, right? Because I had this idealistic way, and we have this social media where we have to look perfect all the time. And I am not that person. So if you want that type of person, then I'm not the podcast for you. But as I'm sitting there trying to think, okay, what is the purpose? Why am I doing this? Because most people, they use their podcast as a means to grow their business, or they do have a side hustle or a hobby. But for me, it's the exact thing that you talked about. You have to figure out what your purpose is, what your passion is. And that, if you can do that, you can find the peace. However, if you don't have the unresolved trauma, and we all have trauma, It doesn't matter what kind it is, but we all have it. If you have not dealt with that, it is hard to move on, and it does come out in your business.
So I just want to define trauma for everybody who's listening. There are 90% of us who are walking this planet Earth has received some form of big T or little t trauma. So the big T trauma is you got sexually abused, you were in a war, you saw something just horrific. You were in a car crash, you got severed limbs, whatever. Like that's the big T, where you're literally physically, emotionally dealing with the effects, the long-term effects of that acute situation. All right. But there are lots of little T's: being laid off after being at a job for 20 years, having a recurring health issues, having instability with your living situation, not being able to feel seen and comfortable with your caregivers because they were preoccupied, having a family member that was sick and you were acting as a surrogate parent. Those little T's impact you. It impacts your business because what if you have never felt good about showing up and being authentic? Then you're not going to be as authentic in your content. You're not, because you're not authentic in your content, you're not resonating with your people. You're not resonating with your people. You're not getting referrals. There's a through line that connects.
That is so true. And I love that because when you talk about that resonating through with your clients, how to get repeat business is confidence in yourself that then is contagious to the people that you're working with, and they believe and trust you. Know, like, and trust is what we talk about. And then you can then move that on to, hey, I want to refer you to somebody else. But if they don't have that confidence in yourself, then they don't want to use you, and they definitely don't want to refer you. So, good example. I knew somebody who was going through a lot of marital discord, and because of that, his whole confidence was shook. And so when he would call and say, hey, well, Charisse, what, do you not have confidence in my ability anymore? Like super combative. And the truth is, no, I don't, because the way you treat my clients is not the way I'm okay with. And it's because of what he's going through in his own life. And so if you can't deal with some of that stuff, it does come out in your business.
One of the common symptoms for unresolved trauma is suspicion. What do you think other people are thinking of me? Paranoia, somebody's out to get me. Negative biases, I knew this wasn't going to work out. Over exaggerating other people's behavior, projecting your own insecurities on the other people. If I'm insecure, maybe other people are insecure. Self-defeating concepts, I don't think I should even try, I shouldn't even bother. Those things don't happen in isolation, Charisse. They're usually tied to something else that may see. Here's the thing about trauma. It's not the trauma, it's the belief that's created as a result of the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
If you felt helpless, if you felt insecure because you couldn't do anything, and because you weren't able to resolve that situation, you're going to try to replicate that same situation everywhere you go in order to create some resolution. But that doesn't usually happen. We actually just amplify the insecurity and all the symptoms from the original point of injury.
I love your passion and I love your experience and your knowledge. And all I can say is amen, because it's so true. That is so good. So what do you do to help people?
So back in the 1950s, there was a psychologist. His name was Dr. Eric Berne. He created a wing of psychology called transactional analysis. And basically what it is, in very simple talk, is that every single thing that we do when we communicate with other people is called a transaction, meaning that we're not just exchanging words. We're able to communicate on a level where I'm either acting as an adult, I'm literally communicating information, and you have the choice of receiving information, the transaction of receiving information as an adult, or you can scold me like a parent, or you can be demure like a child. And based on those transactions, you can reach conclusions about who you are and the environment around you. A lot of people who haven't been able to fully resolve have a lot of wounded broken childlike tendencies, or they have a very scolding adult in them that has these musts and do's and shoulds, and they don't question authority. They don't question what on their TikTok reels. They don't question what their business coach that they paid $10 for on a Fiverr discount. They don't question any of that. And then they find themselves going from situation to mishap to misendeavor over and over and over, without realizing that maybe, just maybe, the foundation of how they view their life was on shaky, unstable ground. So my job, what I do with my clients is, let's identify those patterns. Let's identify how you interact with people and be able to have a compassionate parent voice that's comforting, that's nurturing, and a curious child that's not one to procrastinate and avoid, and a fully informed adult that is able to receive information.
Wow. That is so powerful. And I think every single business owner needs it because, like I said, it doesn't matter if you have big T or little t, you have T. And if you don't deal with your T, then you can't go forward and you can't do what you need to. So, how did you get into this?
I didn't get into this. I think it got into me.
Okay.
So I remember there was a book called "I'm Okay, You're Okay." And it was by Dr. Thomas Harris. It was a protege of Dr. Eric Berne. And I remember just looking at it in a whim. And they talked about this state of okayness, meaning that if you're feeling satisfied in your identity and your worth as a human being, you can be able to interact and have transactions that are complementary, meaning that you don't get baited into guilt and shame or intimidated by subtle manipulation. You could see the situation for what it is, and you can be able to respond appropriately, which was awesome. But I didn't get it at the time because I was fully immersed in my own sex addiction and alcoholism. So I had that information when I was 27, Charisse, but I didn't really thoroughly understand the power of it until I was in my mid to late 30s, because I wasn't really fully allowing myself permission to heal. A lot of women don't give themselves permission to heal for societal and cultural reasons. And because of that, I evolved from different certain types of, first it was as an entrepreneur, personal training, then business coaching. And then when I remember I was talking with a coach, marketing coach, and I was showing him my sales page and all that. And he was like, Denise, you sound like a life coach. You don't sound like a business coach. You're talking about like healing, stuff like that. This is not what a life, but if you can't run a business without being healed, I'm like, well, then honey, you're in the wrong profession. So it was more about Cherie's alignment to what the tools that were guiding me to my own healing.
Wow. So, when you finally figured that out, like, were you in discontent or before? Like, you were still going through the motions, you felt like, yeah, I like it, this is what I'm doing. But when you found what you're doing now, tell me about that transition. Like, was it natural and it felt good? Did you have this burning desire and a calling to keep going? Tell me about that.
I remember when my son, well, he's now 9, but like, I remember when he was a toddler and he first started to walk. It was awesome to see the excitement and the terror in his eyes as he was trying to sturdy himself against the walls or the rails. I think every mother has that moment when they're first seeing their kid evolve from wobbly feet to like standing upright with those little cute chubby little legs.
Mhm.
And I remember like that's emotionally how I felt too about that. Cause it's like, wait a minute, I have all this information. It's freaking changing my life, but it's going to irritate a lot of people. Cause just like my son was irritating me, knocking stuff down. I got to barricade stuff and put a styrofoam over everything. I knew I was going to be knocking stuff down around myself, my own image, and then people's image of themselves as well. So it's a gift, it's a curse, and scary and exciting all around. And you hear my passion because this is where I belong.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people think if I need to get followers or fame or whatever, I'll belong. I'm like, no, boo boo, that's just a symptom of what you really want. You want validation. And maybe, just maybe, the validation doesn't have to come from the externalities.
Yeah, that's true. So, how did you start finding clients then?
So one of the things that I was duped and conned on was that I would have to post, make a reel, do a dance, go online, post. And I remember just feeling so exhausted and drained from it. And then I had my coach at the time was like, honey, this is not even you.
Mm.
You're posting and dancing and whatever. I wasn't literally dancing, but I was. Every business is different. Okay. So, what I'm about to say for everyone who's listening, this is really not a general. Okay. This is about knowing yourself, knowing your audience, and knowing your worth.
Mhm.
Okay. For me, I get my clients through conversations like this and through long form content. My content, I don't write like 500 words. Like today I was looking at the sky and it made me feel so good. And that's what talks about healing. And if you click here, you can schedule a 30-minute session. Like that's not my content. I'm writing deep, long form articles, usually anywhere from 1,700, sometimes up to 3,000 words. And it's for a lot of reasons. A,
Wow.
because I need to really flesh out and explain certain things, but it's how I present myself where I thrive.
Mhm.
Every entrepreneur, every woman, mompreneur who is listening has to find that environment where they actually thrive.
Mhm.
And it energetically attracts the people who are meant to work with you.
That is so good. And that's true because if you like the long form and that's the way that you project yourself and the people that consume that, you're the same type of person, like-minded people. And if you're not, like if they want the woo-woo dancing on TikTok, then you'd probably like go like this and poke your eyes out. So that's a good thing. You have to do what is authentic to yourself. That's fantastic. Very, very good. Okay, so let's talk about business owners who have ambition and yet they're burned out. What's your advice to them?
Well, let's talk about what's burnout, right?
Yeah,
What exactly does that look like?
yeah, good point.
I'm not speaking to people who are just neurotic and they just feel like they can't sit still for a second. I'm talking about the people who've actually have systems in place. They've actually gone through the seasons of the initial 3 to 5 year hump. I'm talking about people who actually have teams and people depending on them. So the reason why I'm saying is burnout for a seasoned entrepreneur, the little flavor is different than someone who's just starting out or thinking about being a business owner. I just really want to make sure that people understand that. When you're burnt out after achieving at the high level, it's literally imagine you're pushing a mountain up a boulder. And like, yeah, you got like Hulk woman's like size, like biceps, and like you've got strep, like, look how far I've gone. But you feel like you're starting to buckle
Mm.
after all that endurance for all that amount of time. And because you've been able to show to everybody how strong you are, there's this level of expectation that people have on you that's like downright superhuman.
Mhm.
Like, and when you're having this level of literally people looking at you almost goddess-like, there's these expectations of not disappointing anybody. So you have this huge weight on your shoulder. And when you're actually at that burnout, it's almost like the boulder just fell down on you. You're disinterested. You're unmotivated. No matter the fact that you were making money. I remember thinking about one particular client I had. She was making like $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day. It's like, I don't even care anymore. Like, I don't care. Like, wait a minute. There's still people on your payroll. You're still getting like
Mm.
money from your last talent. Like, I don't even care. When you don't even care about the money, no matter how hard you've made it, that's a sign of pure burnout. When you say like this place can go to hell, that's burnout. When you feel like you need to outsource it to the intern, like you just take care of the realm. Like you're gonna get a 20-year-old intern, like helm of the ship, do my operations plan. That's burnout. So I want to really make it clear to everyone who's listening, burnout, that flavor looks different depending on how far you are in your business.
Very, very well described. So, how do you help people get over the burnout and either find their passion and get out or to get back in and start going again?
Well, Charisse, I know this is not going to be politically correct for me to say that, but I don't help people do anything that they don't want to do.
Good.
Like just keeping that 100. But what I will do is ask yourself, this you've created this world with these systems in place. Is this because you're doing this out of your brokenness
Mm.
or a sense of emptiness? And that can lead to two different possibilities. Either you want to work to heal it, or you want to work to identify and reimagine what your new life looks like.
Love that. And I think in this time where there's such uncertainty, which is going on in our world, like, are we on the brink of World War III or are we not? Are we at inflation or are we not? And people are just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And so they're using that as a, let's just stay in this little stagnant pond. It's not moving anywhere. And so what would you recommend to those people that are just feeling like, I don't even know anymore. I don't know what I don't know.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny because we are at
Okay.
a part right now where we live in the States, United States, and there's talks about, and we're going to have inflation because of the terrorists. And what are we going to do? We have Iran talking about nuclear technology and all this other stuff. And I don't know if my business is going to survive because of blah, blah, blah happening. And my question is, what is happening on a macro level should not influence you on a micro level? There will always be wars and threats of wars and economies. You know, there's so many businesses that actually started growing and thriving during the pandemic, as
Mhm.
well as when the 2008 Great not recession. So some businesses actually grow and thrive when it seems like it's the most economically despair.
Yeah.
And so what the really question is, why are you using these external situations to have an impact on what isn't within your power and your control? It's not like you can go and adjust the Fed rates.
I wish. I absolutely wish. But
You
actually,
know, I know for some of you guys are like, well, my 401k is turning into a 201k. Like, I get that. What can you do and pivot that makes you in control of things?
mhm.
And if you can't control the things around you, what can you control internally? That's about, again, stepping into your full adult voice.
Mhm.
And your kid, well, how can I creatively pivot?
You have such good advice. And it's just, I love it because it's refreshing and it's raw and it's true. Um, because there is a lot of people that they do. I constantly, Charisse, we're not going to buy a house right now because blah, or we're not going to do this because why? We've had those cycles the whole time. Oh, interest rates are never going to go down. Really? Because in 20 years, I've seen it at 3%, three different times. And I bought a house each time at those different times. So it's going to go. It will. Just give it some time.
You know, while you're on that, I just want to say something that's on my mind because I hear a lot of people like, in service professions, especially right now, and my heart goes all to everyone who's in the real estate profession. And it was a few years ago, there was a lawsuit and all
Yeah.
the
Finalized
billings,
in August. Yeah.
yeah, all that stuff got changed. And like you're trying to market yourself to fear-based people. And like the problem is you're marketing to fear-based people. Like we need to change the paradigm altogether. If I'm trying to alleviate fear, I'm basically taking energy that I could have to the high rollers in the room, the
Yeah.
ones that actually see the opportunity. I'm going to speak opportunity to the people who actually value taking advantage of the situation. Like I remember during the pandemic, you could get real estate super cheap. You get real estate super cheap. Right now, boomers are leaving their homes, whether or not they want it or not.
Yeah.
They've got to leave their homes.
Yeah.
These are opportunities. And actually, when we're in our creative kid mode, we can actually package it to attract the kids who are actually thriving in uncertain times.
Yay. And we just created, we pivoted because of that exact thing. It's like, and I'm not giving my idea out on this, but actually I should, but it's really interesting. It's who are my clients and who do I really want to attract? I have a person that he's been focusing on helping people. He's a broker, 100 to $300,000 homes. And I'm like, what are you doing? And So he's like, well, I need to get into this part. So multifamily, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars. I said, right. And I said, but what are you doing? And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to get him the loan. I get paid and it's great. I go, yeah, but let's think long term, because he's in his late 60s. And I said, why don't you become a partner with them? If you can fund the deal, then why aren't you a partner? Because that's long term. You have recurring income coming in every single month if you do that. If you fund the loan, it's one and done. And that's it. And so he's like, what are you talking about, Charisse? And I think it is. It's true. You need to go find the people that have the opportunity. And again, it gets back to like-minded. I love that you talk about that.
Energy attracts equal-minded energy. And so if I'm operating from this belief that I should just settle for less, or I should not be picky, and I should, and that maybe it worked if you came from a situation where you were just trying to struggle month to month, or you were in seasons of your life where you didn't feel like you couldn't have enough for various reasons. That season created that mindset, but that mindset does not function in the next level.
Right.
A lot of people are operating from mindsets that only worked in times of distress.
It's true. It's very true. And you help clear that. Okay, I cannot believe that our time is almost up. It's crazy. I could talk with you all day long, but let me ask you a question that has nothing to do with business. It has to do with being a mom. And you probably heard this question if you've listened to my podcast, but I want you to imagine sitting on a park bench and you're enjoying the day in the sun, and this 9-month pregnant woman comes and sits next to you, first time mom. And you look at her and you kind of smile, you start talking. What is one piece of advice you would give her for being a new mom? And it doesn't have to be only the mom, like as a new, it can be anything that you've experienced as a mom.
Enjoy the beautifulness of the mess. And I'm just not talking about the diaper blows out or the projectile vomit or any of the stuff. It's messy for a reason, and you're going to give you experiences that you will cherish for the rest of your life. So instead of trying to massage it and get all the tools and the gadgets and whatnot, why don't you just enjoy it? I've had vomit on my shirt walking around Target with my kid. I've had running to the bathroom, holding my baby in midair. Like, I feel that. And that's the same way it goes with every aspect of your life. Enjoy the mess.
Yeah. Because
it creates a message for the right people.
It does. It's so true. I love that. And there's always going to be something. And so if you're always living for the next moment of, well, you're not enjoying the time that you have now. And that, I love that. I love the mess. Well, thank you. So if our listeners wanted to find you, how would they get a hold of you?
So we're going to make a link in the show notes below, but the best way to find me is info.deniseglee/learn-with-Denise. And there I will just be busting into your inbox once a week, sharing just advice like that, simple, straight to the point, because ain't nobody got time to be weeding through a whole bunch of nonsense.
Amen to that. Well, thank you so much. And Unbreakable Mompreneurs, truly, Denise had so many golden nuggets that she talked about, and that truly resonates, that you do have to find that inner work and figure out what your trauma is, big or little, that you're dealing with, so that you can be able to move on, because you do have what you need inside of you. And if you need help getting that out and figuring it out and healing, Denise is a great person to go to. So Denise, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Charisse, for having me.
And if you like this, then please share and subscribe and go out and make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.